Let's get to modern day. Peace talks ongoing to end the war in Gaza. It's October 7. Obviously, Israel is really amplifying the Remember October 7 propaganda. October 7, 2023 should be a reminder that we are turning the page and getting into the third year of Israel's Holocaust of the Palestinian population in Gaza. We are now in the third year. It's been 2 whole years, which sounds so crazy when you think about it. You're like, 2 entire years. 2 entire years. October 7, 2024 was the first year of Israel's genocide of the Palestinians. And October 7, 2025, today, is the end of the second year.
This morning marks 2 years since the horror of October 7th, when thousands of Hamas militants stormed into Israel, massacring nearly 1,200 people, taking 251 hostage. Udi Goren's cousin, Tal Haimi, died defending his kibbutz. His body is one of those being held in Gaza.
This barbarism, this hatred that just flowed in uncontrollably. It really was just the worst of humanity.
Like so many families, he hopes the talks between Israel and Hamas will end the war and bring their loved ones home. Phase 1 of the US brokered plan would see the immediate release of all 48 remaining hostages, 20 believed to be alive. Palestinian prisoners would be released and Israeli troops partially withdraw. But a key sticking point,
I think one of the craziest aspects of like the relitigation of October 7 over and over again in an effort to justify Israel's bloody murder campaign, Israel's Holocaust of the Palestinians, is that it is somehow the most televised and the most like filmed act of terror, but it's also the most lied about, okay? Because there are things that you can point to that are active, like war crimes, right? Regardless of the fact that, and you're supposed to match it up with 75 years of apartheid, of course, at the end of the day. But even then, right, there are things that you can present that took place that are war crimes. But that wasn't enough. Israel had to literally just straight up lie about virtually every aspect of October 7. And not only that, but also still to this day, there have been admissions of the Hannibal Directive being utilized on October 7 on the Israeli civilian population, both with the people that were escaping the Nova Festival and also certainly in the kibbutzim. We still do not have any conclusive evidence. No investigations have been taking place on the Israeli side that directly points to how many the IDF actually ended up killing of their own civilians and their own military members as well. Shocking. It's been 2 years and we still do not know. We do know that the Hannibal Directive was applied. And for those of you who don't know, Hannibal Directive not used, lie. 40 beheaded babies, lie. Bombing of a hospital, lie. Yeah. But it is remarkable, to me at least, it is remarkable to me that there are still so many questions left unaddressed, left unanswered. People still turn around and say, 1,200 Israelis were killed, making it seem as though every single person was a civilian. That's not the truth, obviously. The Hannibal Directive, for those of you who still are oblivious to it, is an Israeli military doctrine that dictates that it is better for Israel, the armed forces, to kill an Israeli that has been captured by the resistance forces than it is to leave them alive and allow them to be a bargaining chip for leverage in the hands of the resistance forces. It sounds insane, but it is straight up a part of Israeli military protocol. And not only is it a straight up part of Israeli military protocol, it was absolutely utilized on October 7. We know this because the defense secretary at the time, Yoav Gallant, international war criminal Yoav Gallant, openly admitted to the utilization of the Hannibal Doctrine on October 7. The attacks on the kibbutz and the music festival were awful. It was all recorded. It's just a horrible situation. Israel still chose to lie and make it sound like something from a movie. They just had to make genocide propaganda instead of reporting the truth and engaging in real hostage negotiations. Yeah, there was a deliberate reason for it. It's because, one, this was a real scar for a supremacist ideology, for a nation that is designed around a supremacist ideology. This was a major blow to their confidence. Okay, so that was one. That was one of the aspects. So like there is a sense of there was a genuine interest in it was genuine. Like the people did go genuinely insane. Okay, that is true. But also, because like, how dare these barbaric hordes actually rise up against us and strike this devastating of a blow against our superior peoples, right? Like they're supposed to be kept docile. They're supposed to be kept servile. It's like the Nat Turner Rebellion. So that certainly bricked the collective consciousness of Israeli society. But also on top of that, the reason for why they really beefed up the atrocity propaganda on October 7, in spite of the fact that there was very real atrocities that they could have just pointed at, right, was because they wanted to heighten international support. And they did. They successfully did get a lot of international support because Western leaders were totally willing to lean into ridiculous narratives that were very quickly and immediately discounted. Like people fact checked it early on and found that like a lot of the major narratives that they were driving were just completely made up. The babies being beheaded, babies being thrown in ovens, like mass rapes directed by Hamas, like all of this stuff was completely made up, whole cloth. Okay. And yet that didn't stop Western leadership, including Joseph Robinette Biden, from advancing these narratives and then quietly apologizing, having his staffers quietly apologize for even revealing this misinformation. You had esteemed, trusted, signature legacy publishers like the New York Times also playing a formative role in advancing this narrative of barbarism beyond the actual atrocities that took place. And obviously on the most extreme end, you had people like Rabbi Shmuley saying that Hamas was cutting off the breasts of Israeli women and playing soccer with the cut off breasts of Israeli women. Like just totally psychotic shit. Zoran Swan, thank you for the 10 gifted subs. What do you recommend in a world where everyone accuses the other of lying? I mean, critical thinking. Yeah, the lie about babies in ovens is a lot more sinister than just propaganda. Israeli forces have in fact killed babies in ovens, but when you Google that, guess what happens? Guess what appears first? Weren't Israeli forces that did that. Those were Zionist forces before the inception of the nation state of Israel. What you are talking about is Deir Yassin, okay? In Deir Yassin in 1947, a year prior to the completion of the Nakba, the early Zionist brigades with, I think it was Lihi and Irgun, the paramilitaries, actually did throw a baker's child in an oven and made the baker watch and then threw the baker in the oven after him. All of those Zionist brigades then, of course, became the IDF. You had Haganah, you had Irgun, you had Lihi, and numerous other brigades. They all basically formed the Israeli occupying forces, the Israeli Defense Force, as is known. Francis Cassandra Coppola. Wait, oh my God. Possibilities. 1, Hamas fighters who believe the 1948 baby in the oven story replicated the same atrocity in revenge. 2, the baby in the oven story is fiction invented by the Israelis to whip up hate against Palestinians. If so, it's succeeding. This was on October 31st, 2023. Oh my God. Were the Coppolas always like this? Is she a part of the Coppola family? Or is this like Megalopolis still sucks ass? Okay, bro, we're not talking about that. I mean, we know Scorsese. We know Scorsese was straight up hanging out with the Palestinian poet Mossab Abu Toha, but maybe she's not related to the other Coppolas. Another form of atrocity propaganda that they also utilized on October 7 when they were lying was the pregnant Israeli women having the babies getting ripped out of their bodies, right? That actually didn't happen on October 7, but it is a atrocity that took place in the hands of Phalangist militias in the Sabra and Shatila massacre, which was also directed by Israel against both Palestinian refugees that were in Sabra and Shatila, and also the Shia Lebanese population that was in the area as well. Anyway, just something to remember. So a lot of the atrocity propaganda that these guys beefed up in the aftermath of October 7 and they ran around with were things that either Zionist brigades or the Israeli occupying forces had directly done or had overseen being done to the Palestinian population.
It could come in phase 2, which demands Hamas disarm and relinquish control of Gaza. But President Trump optimistic about the chances of success.
We're going to have a Gaza deal, I'm pretty sure, yeah.
Growing numbers of Israelis now demanding an end to the war and the return of the hostages, among them the bodies of 2 Americans, Omar Nutra and Itai Chen. The deal could also bring an end to the suffering in Gaza. More than 67,000 Palestinians killed in this war, according to the Hamas-run health ministry. Human rights groups saying many are now suffering from famine, something Israel denies. Our team witnessing the suffering up close. 2-year-old Farazia Kabat dying of starvation Monday, according to local doctors. His father, Mustafa, told by doctors that his son hadn't survived after being admitted to the ICU just 5 days earlier. Millions of Palestinians and Israelis now desperate for a deal to finally end.
It's hard to find the right words. It's beyond what anyone would ever want to imagine, much less, God forbid, experience. A baby, an infant, riddled with bullets, soldiers beheaded, young people burned alive. I could go on, but it's simply depravity in the worst imaginable way. Anthony Blinken, 12th of October, 2023. No. You're being bad.
And what's been a long living nightmare.
Well, those talks are now into their second day. The Qatari foreign minister just speaking, saying they lasted 4 hours yesterday. Everyone feels that it's still on track, hoping a deal by the end of the week. Michael?
Yeah, we all hope for that. Thank you so much, Ian.
We're going to be talking about trade. We're going to be talking about a lot of different things. We'll certainly be talking about Gaza.
So what I'm learning is that the atrocity propaganda not only has a dual purpose, but the primary purpose is the overriding of their own atrocity by selecting the same crimes on October 7 because the consent had already existed amongst the G7/core already. Yes, but I do think that the primary purpose was to still first and foremost really heighten the atrocity narratives in an effort to justify what came after. Because Israel knew exactly what was going on. Israel knew exactly what was going to happen, what they were going to do, the Israeli government, I mean, and obviously people who had been engaging in pro-Palestinian advocacy also knew exactly what was about to take place and what came before October 7, right? There's a reason why people like myself, from the start, were very careful with communicating exactly who was responsible for October 7. There were definitely some who went above and beyond when they were talking about the events that were taking place because they thought that they could get away with even a fraction of the callous ways in which the pro-Israel crowd speaks on these issues, right? You can't do that. It sucks, but you can't do that. And we're not even talking about like whether you should do that or not. I'm not relitigating that, okay? But it is obvious that there is not only an asymmetry with the ways in which Israel gets to do whatever the fuck it wants, versus the retaliation or the resistance against such atrocities. But that asymmetry also certainly exists in the messaging realm. Okay? That asymmetry certainly exists in the ways in which people defend Israel's atrocities and defend Israel's genocide. They can be as ridiculous as they want. They can be as bloodthirsty as they want. Look at Randy Fine. Okay? Randy Fine can just straight up say, like, Muslim congresspersons need to be shipped to Gaza so they can be assassinated by the Israeli state, or, basically masturbate openly to images of Gaza being completely destroyed. But of course, if there was a congressperson of like Palestinian background or a Muslim congressperson, could you imagine them doing the same for October 7? And these two things are not even equivalent regardless, but there is no symmetry in the ways in which you can be openly callous and openly monstrous without penalty. You would get destroyed. You would not only lose your job, you'd probably go to prison if you were to speak about Jews in the way that like Randy Fine speaks about Muslims, or if you spoke about Israel in the way that defenders of Israel speak openly about the victims on the Palestinian side. As a Palestinian, we inherently know that there is a massive asymmetry across board in every aspect you can think of, whether it comes to the actions on the ground or whether it comes to the words spoken about the situation. Pro-Israel people can literally call for our deaths to our faces in front of law enforcement and have zero recourse. Exactly.
We're in very serious negotiations to, I guess you could say, depending on the way you count, 3,000 years. You could say 500 years. You could say, but that it's been raging for a long time. And I think there's a possibility that we could have peace in the Middle East. It's something even beyond the Gaza situation. We want a release of the hostages immediately, etc. And so our team is over there now. Another team just left, and other countries, literally every country in the world has supported the plan.
Yep.
I don't think there's anybody that hasn't, actually, not that I've seen. But there's a real chance that we could do something, so you may have some questions on that later. We are very close to making a deal.
The 3,000 years thing is new. Someone got into Trump's ear and made him start singing about this 3,000 years narrative. I suspect that this narrative will be more annoying for his base, because it's like a very common meta to dunk on the ways in which Israel will or Israelis or people who defend Israel actively say, "Well, this is promised land 3,000 years ago." It's a way to bring religion into the conversation, and a lot of people don't appreciate that. A lot of people obviously make jokes about that because it's ridiculous. So Trump, not realizing that he just keeps saying 3,000 years, it was promised to Israel 3,000 years ago, the land was promised to the Jews 3,000 years ago, is only going to make people more annoyed with him in his own base. You are underestimating the evangelical base? No, the evangelical base is gone. They're insane. I'm not talking about the evangelical base. Trump's entire base of support is not just the rabid Christian evangelical Zionists. He needs support from a broader base if it chips away throughout time. And what remains is just like the rabid evangelical Zionists that support him, then he can't actually continue doing the stuff that he's doing. It's ridiculous.
The Middle East, that will bring peace to the Middle East. After all of these years of millions and millions, tens of millions of people being killed, there's a chance to bring peace to the Middle East.
What guarantees are you giving your Arab partners that Israel will not resume its offensive after the hostages are released?
Well, the primary guarantee is once this deal happens, if it does happen, look, they're in negotiations right now, we are going to do everything possible. We have a lot of power, and we're going to do everything possible to make sure everybody adheres to the deal.
Students ignore Starmer's call to respect the 7th of October anniversary. Remember that one chatter who was like, wait, why don't you, or well, I mean, I guess that was Marx Carney. He was asking about Marx Carney, but I love the British framing on this issue, okay? Where it's like, oh, dude, come on, at least like respect Yom Kippur, you know? Don't do an anti-Israel protest on Yom Kippur. Don't do an anti-Israel protest on October 7. It's like, what are you talking about? Has the genocide stopped? No, then it's valid for people to continue protesting. Suck my dick. Yeah, today is Condom Hummus Day. Nope, not even a little bit. Because remember, okay, and obviously a lot of people are yelling at Zoran, understandably, for his way of framing this as well. Okay, everyone is going to give awful statements on this. I do not think a single person in American politics, no matter how supposedly base they are, is going to look at the situation and be like, October 7 marks 2 years of Israel's genocide. Okay, that's it. 2 years. Yeah, Zoran came out and made this statement. 2 years ago today, Hamas carried out a horrific war crime, killing more than 1,100 Israelis and kidnapping 250 more. I mourn these lives and pray for the safe return of every hostage still held and for every family whose lives were torn apart by these atrocities. In the aftermath of that day, like, you can say this on October 8th, 2023. You can say this maybe in the first, not even in the first year, marking the first year of the genocide. But, like, you know, the time for October 7 recognitions has completely, we've moved on. Okay? This is ridiculous. Especially because Israel does not give a about the hostages. Israel has consistently shown that they do not give a about the hostages. They've killed hostages. Sometimes they've directly shot hostages and murdered them. Other times they have blown up buildings where some of the hostages and prisoners of war were staying in. The families of the hostages have also stated over and over again that the Israeli government does not give a about them and their family members. Dylan Saba says, Hamas committed a singular crime. Mamdani does not distinguish between military and civilian targets or casualties, instead of labeling the entire operation and armed resistance as such as criminal, whereas Netanyahu launched a war. These kinds of mealy-mouthed proclamations pretend to be rooted in universalism. Peace must be pursued through diplomacy, not war crimes, but at essence affirm the permanent subjugation of the oppressed and the illegality of revolution. Okay? If he does not want to engage this hard truth, he should just be silent. The Palestinians are not political pawns for him to use or condemn based on the exigencies of electoral politics, solidarity, or nothing. Does this not concern you? It does. It concerns me twofold. One, because this is a guy who has literally been hounded by Canary Mission and all these other places in perpetuity for his consistent advocacy for the Palestinian emancipation. They're not going to turn around and all of a sudden be like, yeah, this Muslim guy who was an anti-Zionist for his entire activism is all of a sudden good now. You know what I mean? Yeah. Mahmoud Mamdani, Zoran's father, Palestinians have a right to resist. This is a colonial occupation, not a conflict. May 12th, 2021. It's true. They do have a right to resist. Like, on the one hand, I make no... I don't mix my words when talking about, like, the events that transpired on October 7, right? There's, you know, there were atrocities that took place on October 7. It's true. Having said that, you have to always match the events that took place on October 7 within the proper framework of existing under colonial subjugation. Okay? Yes, I don't mince words. Sorry, not mix words. ESL. I don't mince words. It's true, right? So the crimes that took place on October 7 have to be seen within the proper context, of 75 years of settler colonial apartheid oppression, death and destruction. Numerous October 7s had taken place prior upon the Palestinian population. Numerous October 7s. And I think people that still carry water, or people that still heighten the death and destruction of October 7 and the atrocities of October 7 in these words are, in my opinion, carrying a little bit of water, whether inadvertently or deliberately, for the ongoing genocide. Okay? Because we have to understand the asymmetry that exists here between a Palestinian death, which is collateralized, which is seen as just like a number, a statistic, an unfortunate statistic, if at that, versus every Israeli death is a tragedy. Every single one. When Israelis die, that is a horrible tragedy that took place. But when Palestinians die, when Palestinians are killed, right? When an Israeli is killed, horrifying tragedy. It's the most significant thing that has ever taken place. Okay, we must mourn. We must change the way we talk about everything. And yet when Palestinians are killed, when they're slaughtered en masse, when they are being genocided, no such considerations exist. So Zoran said, 2 years ago today, Hamas carried out a horrific war crime, killing more than 1,100 Israelis and kidnapping 250 more. I mourn these lives, and I pray for the safe return of every hostage still held, and for every family whose lives were torn apart by these atrocities. In the aftermath of that day, Prime Minister Netanyahu and the Israeli government launched a genocidal war, a death toll that now far exceeds 67,000, with the Israeli military bombing homes, hospitals, and schools into rubble. Every day in Gaza has become a place where grief itself has run out of language. I mourn these lives and pray for the families that have been shattered. Our government has been complicit through it all. I mean, he salvages it a little bit in the aftermath. This must end. The occupation of apartheid must end. Peace must be pursued through diplomacy, not war crimes, and our government must act to end those atrocities and hold those responsible to account. The last 2 years have demonstrated the very worst of humanity. We must answer it by modeling the very best, a relentless pursuit of our higher ideals and an unwavering commitment to universal human rights. The genocidal war thing, like people are hyper focusing on the rest of this stuff, but it's not bad. Okay? Once again, I don't think that this is because this message is not going to soothe those who are cackling like hyenas about Zoran's anti-Semitism. I think the conversation starting off with this, how can you be annoyed about this statement? I'm telling you what the issue is. Okay, I don't think you guys are understanding the criticisms that I have, because October 7 is being utilized as a justification for the genocide that has unfolded after. Okay? Making October 7 the pivotal point, the inception for Israel's genocide, is a lie, and it's one that he knows is a lie. Do you understand? He knows that this didn't start on October 7. So explaining the atrocities on October 7 without making a mention of Israel's own involvement, without making any mention whatsoever, without talking about it within the proper context, makes it seem as though you're bringing it up as a way to, in some respects, still justify the atrocities that Israel has taken place, like giving it some kind of giving Israel's actions, his genocidal actions and his genocidal ambitions, some kind of cause. Here's what Ruwa said. Statement on the 2-year anniversary of October 7 and ongoing genocide. For 2 years, we have witnessed atrocities beyond human comprehension. 2 years of horrific violence, mass displacement, and incalculable loss. I'm telling you right now, guys, Zoran doesn't believe that. I know for a fact that he doesn't believe that because, you know, it's just, if you have been an advocate for Palestinian emancipation for decades prior to this, it comes from a recognition of the humanity of Palestinians from the start, okay? If you recognize Palestinians as human beings with a just cause for emancipation, okay, then you already understand this dynamic. You understand why when people get pushed into a corner and recognize that there is no other, there is no other way out of this, okay? My statement on the last 36 hours across Israel and Palestine, this is what he said on October 8th, okay, from Zoran Mamdani. On ongoing violence in Israel and Palestine, I mourn the hundreds of people killed across Israel and Palestine in the last 36 hours. Netanyahu's declaration of war, the Israeli government's decision to cut electricity to Gaza, and Knesset members calling for another Nakba will undoubtedly lead to more violence and suffering in the days and weeks to come. The path towards a just and lasting peace can only begin by ending the occupation and dismantling the apartheid. Look at that statement when he wasn't running for mayor. Cool, now he's running for mayor of New York City. Stop self-sabotaging with these unrealistic expectations. Brother, I'm not saying he should be saying praise the heroes of the Al-Qassam brigades or some shit. What are you talking about? My demand and my hope is that politicians exhibit moral courage and say the truth instead of lying by omission. How do you not understand that? My demand isn't that Zoran. My demand isn't that Zoran goes above and beyond. I think the omission in his statement comes from the fact that there is an evening out, a mention of October 7, which then creates a justification structure for Israel's actions, making it seem as though that's when it started, okay, which is incorrect. There is no symmetry. And as long as you do not actually address that there is no symmetry here, as long as you don't actually address the fact that October 7 was a breaking point after the culmination of atrocities for 75 years, then you are basically, once again, creating a permission structure for Israel's violence, even if it's subtle, and simultaneously lying by omission. Anyway, let's hear what Ruwa had to say to see like what a better statement looks like. For 2 years, we have witnessed the atrocities beyond human comprehension. 2 years of horrific violence, mass displacement, and incalculable loss. 2 years of having to mourn the deaths of men, women, children, and entire families. 2 years of families desperate to be reunited with those taken hostage. We remain angry, heartbroken, and once again, call on our leaders to bring an end to the destruction that has killed at least 67,000 Palestinians and more than 1,100 Israelis. Sadly, our leaders continue to fail us. I mean, that's, whatever. While they trumpet proposals of alleged peace, little has changed. Every day this continues. Israel with our backing and tax dollars perpetuates more death, destruction, and horror in Gaza. Children are starving. Hostages remain in captivity. Every day that passes isn't just a policy failure. It furthers one of humanity's darkest periods in recent memory. Today, we reiterate our calls to stop sending bombs in violation of our laws. We reaffirm the need for leaders to reach a just solution and a lasting peace agreement for all those living in the region. We echo the demands for the release of Israeli and Palestinian hostages. May the children born today grow up without genocide, apartheid, and oppressive cycles that perpetuate more violence. May we all have the courage to end decades of violence and bloodshed that's claimed so many lives. Together, we can bring an end to this nightmare. So, I think ultimately, if you put it within the confines of like if you look at this within the framework of like well-established and consequential atrocities that took place, it'll help you understand what the issue is, right? It would be akin to speaking out against the Warsaw Ghetto Uprising by saying the partisans, Jewish partisans, carried out a horrific war crime in the Warsaw Ghetto, killing Nazis and also civilians in the process and kidnapping others. I mourn the lives lost in the Warsaw Ghetto Uprising, and I pray for the safe return of the Nazi soldiers and also the civilians. Okay, if you were to say something along those lines, if you were to talk about the Warsaw Ghetto Uprising or any sort of militancy that came from Jewish partisans at the time, as October 7, as the Holocaust was taking place, I think most people would understand that is a false equivalency. The same goes for the Nat Turner rebellion. The post that you prefer is also a lie by omission, though, just in the opposite direction. I don't think it is. I don't think it is at all. Because I'm not saying don't mention October 7 or don't mention like war crimes that took place on October 7 at all. I'm saying that when you do mention that, you have to still talk about it within the framework of 75 years of apartheid, especially in the aftermath of 2 years of genocide that has taken place. To me, it comes across as utterly ridiculous. And I think a lot of people, I don't think you always have to talk about it within that framework. No, I think you do, especially because October 7 is very clearly being weaponized to continue the death and destruction campaign. That's my take. I think Mamdani's made it very clear with his rhetoric that he's pro-Palestine and anti-Zionist. Oh, I agree. I'm not saying that he is fallen by the wayside or he's like been compromised. It's like Zoran is CIA or any of those things, okay? I'm actually looking at this exclusively within the framework of optics, okay? I don't think his heart has changed. I don't think his mindset has changed at all, okay? Bro, you've said October 7th was bad. Should we be dogpiling you too? I always talk about it within the framework of colonial occupation, though, okay? Just simply leaving it as such is allowing people to take advantage of this this kind of rhetoric. And his own statement, when we're looking at this simply from an optics perspective, I also don't think this is going to work. Okay? This doesn't mean that all of a sudden you should go and vote for like Curtis Sliwa, obviously. That's not what I'm talking about at all. In terms of, within the confines of electoralism, Zoran is above and beyond. Make no mistake. But my job is to also look at statements such as this one and remind people that there is a specific reason for why he is saying this, right? And in the aftermath of thousands of October 7s that he also personally recognizes, Palestinians have faced, it's not even appropriate to say October 7s as though Israel is conducting, boots on the ground military warfare and doing October 7s. Like Israel has access to every single Palestinian. Israel has access to their phones. Israel knows where they live, and Israel has utilized that as a belligerent occupier. Israel has access to all of the aid that goes into the Strip and had access to all the aid that went into the Strip prior to October 7 as well. Israel's taken thousands of Palestinians hostage. There is no equivocation here. It's just not. It's not something that you can approach as though it's like there's no symmetry whatsoever. And when you approach it like this, you're not even making anybody on the opposing side feel more comfortable, because all of the things that come after is what Zionists care about. This is already unacceptable. The very fact that your name is Zohran Kwame Mamdani and that you are a Muslim anti-Zionist is already unacceptable for them. So, you have to ask, like, who is this for? And I guess maybe it's for the squishy liberals who obviously want the scary Muslim man to at least like say the right word, or people who obviously see him as a shining bright light in a new way to do politics in this country. Will obviously overlook this statement. I just personally think that statements such as this one are not actually going to win him favors with a lot of people, because the pro-genocide people are still going to call him a terrorist today. They're going to call him a terrorist tomorrow, and they're going to try to continue to do everything they can to unseat him, to make sure that he doesn't win the election. My point is, after 2 years of genocide, and this is good faith critique for a person who I admire, okay? I don't care if the ultras or some in the pro-Palestinian crowd get mad at me for saying this. I have, I have no worries about openly stating that I admire what Zoran has done, and I think he is a positive force in American politics, and he's in a unique predicament. And I don't think that this, for the normies, is going to make people think, oh, Zoran is betraying the Palestinian cause. Like, I don't think normies are going to think that at all. I think for normies, this is a perfectly appropriate statement that still very much channels the truth and the most consequential aspects. Why would Palestinians be upset with that sentiment? Because not only Palestinians, but the pro-Palestinian side of the pro-Palestinian crowd understands that Palestinians are human beings, and that human beings have a just and moral cause for emancipation after decades and decades of dehumanization and brutal apartheid. So when you create an equivocation between the actions and make it seem as though October 7 is the starting point for Israel's genocide, you end up doing the thing that, kind of Bernie has been doing as well. It's an admission that Palestinian lives are just simply worth less. There is no justification for genocide. And I think that should be stated. If you're anti-genocide, like I am, you should recognize that. Saying that this did not start on October 7 is appropriate. Saying that there is no amount of atrocity that justifies the horrific nature of Israel's genocide appropriate is the truth. That's it. Yeah. This is nauseating. Mamdani is little more than a Muslim terrorist. It is a disgrace he was ever granted citizenship. It should be stripped and he should be deported to the Ugandan shithole he came from. This is the outcome of pandering and capitulating because it's never enough for them. So why not just stand on your beliefs instead of losing both sides? I don't think he's losing the pro-Palestinian side. By and large, the average American that finds himself to be openly anti-Zionist, including people in my community, are not going to look at this and be like, I can't believe he did this guy. There are some who will say that, and it doesn't matter. I care more about the signaling. You are under no circumstances you are obligated to cave and capitulate to your opposition's framing. Look at this. Why can't we condemn the October 7 genocide? You think October 7 was a genocide? You think October 7 was a genocide? Was 9/11 a genocide, chatter? Are you okay? Do you understand, chatters? Isn't it about intent? Okay, yeah. Genocidal intent actually plays a major role. Okay, yeah. What do you think the intent of October 7 was? To genocide all Israelis? Is that what you think October 7 was about? This is insane. I don't question his morals as much as I question his political acumen. Yeah, I don't think his morals are different here. I don't support targeting civilians in any case. If targeting civilians in every case is a genocide, literally every war is a genocide. Okay? Everything is a genocide. There is no difference between what a genocide is and what war is in general. Here, the easiest solution is like if October 7 was a genocide, I can't even do it. I'm sorry. That's so stupid. Yeah. What we did in Dresden was a genocide, I guess, to the Nazis. Yeah. Tyler Robinson genocided, allegedly, Charlie Kirk. Do you think the Americans committed genocide on the Japanese during World War II? No, I don't, actually. I think they committed war crimes, but I don't think they committed genocide on the Japanese during World War II, so no. Also, that's state versus state violence. You're comparing state versus state violence to a captive population rebelling against a belligerent occupier. This is why it's important to explain the background, chatters. Thank God for this one chatter, as a matter of fact. This is why it's important. This is why words matter. This is why explaining things within the proper, appropriate context matters. Because if you don't do that, then you have chatters like this. Then you have people who believe that October 7 was also a genocide, the double genocide theory of October 7 versus the 2 years after October 7. Like you cannot look at World War II, a war between two states in the Pacific theater as October 7, where the Palestinian resistance groups conducting a military operation breaking through the Gaza boundary, okay, to try and kidnap Israelis, to draw back Israel to the negotiations table with very specific, laid out, clear-cut goals, moving in the direction of developing sovereignty for the Palestinians as America's firebombing of Tokyo. It's like saying that the ANC was committing a genocide, a white genocide against the white Afrikaners, or the FLM was committing genocide. It's like saying the IRA was committing genocide. There's actually a real debate among scholars on whether 10/7 constituted genocide, but I don't think there's a case for it. It's far easier to argue that the attack was a political maneuver by the resistance than an attempt at extermination. It would be similar to any other genocide, and to me is more similar to Native American raids on white towns during American settlement. Yes, that's precisely what it is. That is precisely what it is. It's ridiculous. Ultimately, if you considered Palestinians as human beings that have been subject to countless atrocities over the course of 75 years at that point of Israeli domination, then you would never consider October 7 to be a genocide. It's ridiculous. Any leftist mad at this has to think seriously practically about what would be achieved by a mayoral candidate praising October 7th beyond the emotional benefit. I'm not expecting him to praise October 7, man. I think anytime you mention October 7, you have to mention what came after it, which he does, okay? And what came before it, which he doesn't do. That's it. In the simplest terms, that's my expectation. Because if you don't do that, then there is a false symmetry that you create. And that false symmetry is exactly what Israel and Israel defenders use to varying degrees. It's not the worst statement of all time, as some people are presenting it. Like, I think Graham Plattner's statement is worse. On October 7, Hamas launched a horrific terrorist attack against the people of Israel. 2 years later, I'm still calling for all the hostages to be released and for this war to finally end. It's time for peace. Like, that's ridiculous. That's ridiculous. Like, what are we doing? What do you mean? Yeah, I can't believe October 7 happened. Well, I got into a coma on October 8th, 2023, and just woke up from that coma on October 7, 2025. So I'm just oblivious. Not only is this position wrong, but it also literally is unnecessary. A lot of people are already on Israel o'clock. And I think these statements are unnecessary. Like, the way that they're presenting this is not even necessary. You're not winning anybody over because they already know you're anti-genocide while you're simultaneously pissing off people. It makes you look insincere. Zoran's statement is far better than Graham Plattner's statement, okay? Which just begins and ends on October 7. Just ridiculous. Is he doing this because he's getting an AIPAC check? No, obviously not. He's doing this because these guys still don't understand how to communicate. They still don't understand how to communicate about this issue in a way that is, like, appropriate. Americans hate Israel right now in the genocide, but there's still even more anti-Hamas terrorism 10/7. This is pretty clear in polling. Americans are squishy. I understand that. Which is why good leadership requires a demonstration of moral courage. Sometimes it takes moral courage to say the truth. It took moral courage for Zoran to say the truth on October 8th, 2023. It took moral courage for many pro-Palestinians to come out and basically state over and over again that October 7 was not, it didn't just like happen out of nowhere. And it certainly wasn't because of the deeply rooted anti-Semitic tendencies of Palestinian society. Like they're a bunch of little Dylan Roofs or something with copies of Mein Kampf. That is what's frustrating to me. Because if you don't say the truth, then you end up allowing other people to also make up their minds about this issue and continue to believe the wrong things. It is a misrepresentation. That's it. Do not misrepresent my position. My expectation is not for them to like praise October 7 or something. I never have. Okay? But no mention of what took place prior to October 7 that led to October 7 is omission. And especially at a time when people are already experiencing anti-Israel sentiment like never before. this is not a time to retreat at all. This is a time to actually stand on your principles and bravely say the truth. Even if you start a conversation about that, that's still objectively a good thing. Not only is it objectively a good thing, it's also one that I know will be beneficial for you. You can't support immigration without supporting Israel? What? Why? Why? Let me guess. Because Jews are the reason why there's immigration into America, a country that was incredibly resistant to Jewish immigration at the time as well. Yeah, I knew you were going to say that. You're so stupid, dumbass. Yeah, it was Jewish mind control that made Americans, made America the nation comprised entirely of immigrants. Okay, that's what it was. Clean and simple. Yeah, it's clean and simple if you're an idiot, dude. If you don't understand anything about how America formed as a country. Thank you for agreeing. Yes, I'm agreeing that you are a moron. Oh, that username is, oh, yeah, perma, that guy. I think educated pro-Palestine people underestimate how many normies are not knowledgeable of the occupation apartheid that existed before October 7. These normies could even be anti-genocide, anti-Israel, and still not fully understand the extent of the previous Israeli occupation of Palestine. That's why recognizing the context both before and after October 7 is so important. Thank you. Exactly. You put it into words that are so easy to understand. Thank you, Social Cat 6. That's my point. Precisely. Well said. Well said. It's that simple, especially at a time when there's like unprecedented anger towards Israel for its transparent genocide that has taken place for the past 2 years. There is no reason to not talk about how Israel has utilized October 7 to further its genocidal ambition and how Israeli occupation has led to October 7 to begin with. Maybe I'm missing something, but I just don't see the equivocation in Zoran's statement. Zoran's statement is not as bad as the average person that's coming out today, okay? It's not. People are obviously going to be extra critical of him because he has spent many, many years being an avowed anti-Zionist, okay? That is the reason why a lot of people are extra critical. We are always more critical to our closest allies. That's how it usually goes. My only take on this one, my only take in this moment is like I said, mentions of October 7 without talking about like what led to October 7 is omitting key details. That's it. That's it. Do I believe that he's no longer an anti-Zionist? Fuck no. I don't think so at all. But especially given his background, I think like any sort of statement on this issue that does not talk about what came after and what came prior, which he did talk about what came after without like tying it back to October 7, ironically enough, but did not mention what came before, creates a false symmetry between the Palestinian initiatives for liberation and also Israel's genocidal apartheid regime and occupation prior to October 7 and certainly after October 7 as well. Okay, you are better than him on this. I got it. Wait, what? Dude said he wants to arrest Bibi. Eat me with your hyperbolic ass, dude. Lost that guy to Candace. Not that bad. Spending 90 minutes on why it's bad. Okay, you are better than him on this. Got it. Yeah, that's what I was trying to do. I was trying to flex how moral I am. Why is it that there's no nuance ever allowed in this conversation, especially about people that I openly state my admiration for? You've been in here for 59 months. I'm not saying he's like CIA or he's just like controlled opposition or anything like that. I'm not saying those things. I think those things are stupid. Okay? This specific chatter has done this to you before too, Lamau. I know. What a lot of chatters also don't understand is that if it wasn't for bold people like Zoran, if Zoran had that same attitude that you are experiencing right now, he may not have even won the election, won the primaries, okay? It was his it was his position that was previously seen as radical that many people now take for fucking granted because he actually was uncompromising. Sometimes it's okay to say the truth, even when a lot of people are yelling at you over it. That's it. That's all I'm saying. Okay? Okay? This is not to say like he's betrayed the cause or anything like that. I'm not saying those things. Calm the fuck down. When is it not okay to say the truth? I mean, I think it's always okay to say the truth. It's always appropriate to say the truth. Low bar, but I think Zoran's political instincts, especially on Israel-Palestine, are better than AOC? Yes. Well, Zoran has that background as opposed to AOC not having that background. Yeah, this is a video that's 34 years old. Nothing started on October 7. Wait, hold on. Let me see if there's any. I'm trying to see if there's TOS on this.
We have to fight back. The people are fighting back with their stones while they're getting shot at with live ammunition.
Are you never afraid?
Well, there's times that you get afraid. There was a demonstration today.
After church, they went on a demonstration, and the Israeli soldiers shot at them like they do every day. Fight for what is right. And that's what you have to do. You can't be afraid.
But you could lose your life.
But it's better to lose your life than to live under occupation.
Suffer something like this. It's the first one that hit our family, but everybody has something in their family, the same thing. Somebody who was shot, or somebody who was injured, or somebody who was paralyzed.
For somebody in prison. The most serious thing that has happened in our family is that our cousin Amjad was murdered last month. Well, after he went to pray in the mosque, he went out and...
You'll see. I will say this much. I will say this much. Okay? Just as in the immediate aftermath of the Charlie Kirk assassination, people were like very worried. They thought like, oh, the administration is going to successfully make a martyr out of Charlie Kirk and all this stuff. And I thought like it would eventually go away because that's just how the media cycle is. And that's just how desensitized people are to watching violence unfold on U.S. soil. And it was not like there was no reason to temper your response, obviously beyond people like, immediately dunking. Lamau, no, you didn't. You were spreading the worry. No, the parts that I'm worried about are still happening. Okay. Like the terrorism designation and whatnot. But I'm talking about people refusing to mention Charlie Kirk's background and his political output. Did I even for a moment refuse to do that? Did I even for a moment say, oh, now is not the time? No, I immediately started talking about what Charlie Kirk had done and also started criticizing people that were doing exactly that. Charlie Kirk was doing politics the right way. Like, it is ridiculous. And this is no different than that. People being like, well, it's October 7. Now is not the time to mention 75 years of apartheid and occupation that led to October 7. Okay, well, you're being a little silly. And you don't have to actually be even that careful after 2 years of genocide is what I'm saying. You can only feel that way if you think personally that a lot of people just don't see Palestinians as human beings, but simply, unnecessary collateralized deaths as a consequence of Israel's out of control reaction to October 7. That's not how this story works. That's it.
And there was a demonstration, and the soldiers caught him, and they tortured him very badly, and then they shot him later in the heart, close range. They tortured him. He was only 14.
Yeah, it's like saying Israel's doing the Middle East the right way. Anyway, here, students ignore Starmer's call to respect October 7th's anniversary.
October the 7th in London, a chant viewed by many as a highly offensive anti-Semitic call for the destruction of Israel.
Oh my Lord. Oh my Lord.
To these protesters, a legitimate call for a free Palestine.
Can you guys see me? I don't even know. Is it refreshed? Oh, it is. Oh, great. Okay. Well, predictably, because I'm in the United States of America, the most dog shit country on the planet, the absolute worst country on the planet, straight up, bar none, a capitalist shithole. Kaya, now was not the opportunity for you to down. The absolute worst place on the planet, just a horrific, monstrous, awful, dog shit country that I despise. The absolute worst country that has the most wealth throughout history, throughout time, the wealthiest nation on the planet, and we don't have a fraction of the dedicated broadband speeds that you can get in a village on the countryside of France. Okay? The worst infrastructure, the absolute biggest shithole on the planet. I despise this nation. I despise this country with my entire heart. Okay? We do not have any freedom in this place. We do not have any freedom in this country. I hate this country so much. I hate it with all of my heart. It just sucks so bad. Every time I go anywhere else, I can literally go to a bum hotel in the middle of nowhere, okay, on the countryside, and I can get better, unrestricted, unrestrained, uninterrupted broadband than Los Angeles, California, in one of the wealthiest countries on the planet, in one of the wealthiest states on the planet. California as a state is the 5th largest economy on the planet. This is where Silicon Valley is. This is where all the latest advancements in tech is supposed to be happening. Okay? I hate this country so much. You can be on a mountain in the middle of Norway and get better internet than Los Angeles, California. And this is just like a moment of anger. This is a moment of anger for like something that is just so routine, so silly, such a first world problem. But it is emblematic of all of America's much more consequential violence. Okay? It's the same reason as to why America, Kaya, please just just stop. Jesus Christ, what are you doing? You're being such a baby. It's just, you're making her stressed. She just literally is so incredibly spoiled from my mom. No, she doesn't want to come over here to see what's up. She just wants to roam the house because she got to roam the house when I was gone. And she needs to literally have the same structured, regimented. I think this clip went to Trump's big baby desk immediately. I hate everything. I hate everything. I hate everything so much. Anyway, as I was saying, start running ads, take sponsors so you can get fiber. Yeah, I'm not going to do that. All right, let's just continue.
People. Keir Starmer said it was un-British to have so little respect.
The Prime Minister suggests it's un-British to be at this protest on October the 7th. Do you agree with him?
I don't agree with him because it's not un-British to exercise our right to protest, our freedom of expression.
Is this disrespectful, though, to people mourning the loss of life on October the 7th 2 years ago?
It's not disrespectful. It's not a denial of the Holocaust, not a denial of Jewish identity.
Do you condemn what Hamas did on October the 7th?
I don't care for that question.
This man appeared to be an organiser, but didn't want to give us his name.
Are you an organiser?
Thank you,
You want to know what I think?
Yeah.
I think the Prime Minister is disrespectful to the thousands of Palestinians who are killed every single day in Gaza. That's what I think.
We love Jewish people.
love Jewish people.
We hate Zionists.
The war could end today, but Hamas have refused.
This Jewish man came here to share his anger. He told me he feels unsafe in London at the moment.
Yeah. He seems so he feels so unsafe, bro. Yeah. That's what I do when I'm feeling unsafe. I specifically go to a pro-Palestine rally, an anti-genocide rally to agitate, you know? I love feeling unsafe as a as I reveal my pro-genocide position. As I reveal my pro-genocide position at the anti-genocide rally. Oh my God.
The war could stop.
Un-British behaviour, as Keir Starmer very Britishly puts it. Okay, these people should be under arrest for incitement. They could do this October 5th.
Serious question. I do not know how to answer the argument for when people say you're gay. Why do you support anti-LGBTQIA migration? There is no marker of like who gets to migrate to this country. What are we talking about? There is already homegrown and much more successful anti-LGBTQIA positions held by the current population. Okay, that's ridiculous. People are complex. They're human beings. Some of them are not going to agree with you. The notion that all of these people that are coming in are anti-LGBTQIA and they're specifically migrating to this country to represent anti-gay, anti-queer attitudes is so laughable. It's no different than people being like, why are you anti-genocide? Hamas would throw you off of a rooftop. It's basically that, but on the issue of migration. And it's most commonly advanced by people who themselves are anti-gay and anti-queer. Ridiculous. I can't speak for the UK, but Muslim populations in the United States of America also are way more open-minded to gay people than white evangelical Protestants are, by the way. Not only that, but also they don't even have any sort of outsized representation in the same way that the most consequential anti-gay group has. It's ridiculous. They're not open-minded. They're just biding their time until they're the majority. Please don't spread lies. Dog, you're talking to someone who you are suspecting, I guess, of also doing the same thing. Do you think I'm lying about my pro-trans position and waiting for the Islamic Sharia to kick in? Is that what you think? I'm doing taqiyya? Is that what it is? Before we permaban you, please explain your laughable position. The evil white evangelical Christians you speak of literally let gays married in the first place, dumbass. Who is a larger force of anti-queer sentiment in this country, in the United States of America? Muslims or white evangelical Protestants who are the number one hurdle against the legalization of gay marriage? You've already betrayed your position by saying, let the gays get married. What have they done to be a hurdle? Are you oblivious, dude, to all of the think tanks and the right-wing Christian nationalist advocacy groups that have unironically, actively, before Obergefell, spent all of their every waking fucking moment attacking gay marriage, talking about what's next, allowing men to marry dogs? That was a dissent on Obergefell from a Christian nationalist psychopath who happened to be a Supreme Court justice, as a matter of fact. His name is Anthony Scalia. He died. You're literally just fear-mongering? No, dude. If you are experiencing fear when I am delivering an accurate reflection of the political forces in this country, then you correctly understand that it is worthy of some semblance of criticism or fear. You just don't want to admit it because you have some false notion in your brain that actually the white Christian, the white evangelical specifically, the white evangelical forces in this country are actually a lot more open-minded. And you want to feel that way because you are fearful of people that are coming from outside the country. Okay? That's the only reason where you're like, oh, well, those are the guys that I do know. And I wish this country was just entirely comprised of people like that. This is a recognition. When you say this is fear-mongering, especially because I'm not actually fear-mongering, I'm just giving you an accurate reflection of events. Okay? This is simply a recognition. Evangelicals are at 36% in terms of accepted. 61% of evangelicals believe that homosexuality should be discouraged. There are more good than evil people. Yeah, I know. But the same goes for Muslims too, which seemingly is not something that you believe, because you think all Muslims that are coming into this country are actually secretly biding their time by the way that you, by your own admission, they're biding their time until they're the majority. Okay? You have a different set of expectations for Muslims, knowing full well that Muslims have a higher percentage of acceptance for homosexuality being accepted at 41%, okay, than evangelicals do. And that is precisely the reason why you're like, oh, well, they're just like faking it. They're just hiding it. They're faking it. The moment that actually see the data on this stuff and they still go, nope, don't believe it, is a moment where you're just lost, okay? You're lost. Even if Muslims had a higher percentage of homophobia than evangelicals did, which group has outsized representation in Congress? Muslims or evangelicals? They're consulting Israeli VTubers about you, Lazan. Nick Stocko says someone in the government reached out to him about Hassan in preparation for the congressional hearing, asked if I could provide evidence behind these bullet points, and I complied. I was more than happy to assist in any way that I can. The American Congress is reaching out to pedophilic Israeli VTubers in an effort to develop talking points about me. Oh my Lord, we are so lost.
And believe, I mean,
evil people may be the loudest, but they aren't the majority. You need to highlight good people who are doing the right thing more often. Dog, you're an evil person. This is an objectively evil statement. Okay? I need you to understand something. You need to immediately stop thinking like this. The notion that the notion that like Muslims are not open-minded and they're just biding their time until they're the majority, only to turn around and be like, well, when we're talking about evangelical Christians, evil people may be the loudest, but they aren't the majority. You need to highlight good people who are doing the right more often. Like, we started here because you made this statement when I was talking about how Muslims in the United States of America not only do not have like any sort of significant political representation, they're not exactly movers and shakers in American politics, but also on top of that, they are more open-minded. You can't compare a subgroup of Christians like the WECs, white evangelical Christians, to all American Muslims. The apt comparison would be the Salafists, who are even worse. Yeah, except the Salafists in America are virtually non-existent, dumb. That's my point. The reason why I'm comparing the entirety of the Muslim population of this country is because even then they have no political representation whatsoever. And if you're going to talk about Salafists, are you out of your mind? In the United States of America, you think there's any sort of political representation for the fundamentalist version of Islam? Are you out of your mind, chatter? I know who I am. You don't. You don't know me. I don't even think you're evil. You know that? I would never say you're an evil piece of shit. Okay, well, thank you for not saying that I'm evil. Having said that, this is an objectively evil statement. The notion that people that it literally betrays everything else that you said in defense of evangelical Christians. Do you not see? This is an objectively evil statement. Saying that a group of people that are coming in here are actually secretly, they secretly have a takeover ambition. That is an objectively heinous thing to say. That's what I'm trying to make you understand. Okay? Lol at the fantasy of Congress asking a cartoon for help. It's not wrong. I wish I was. I literally wish it wasn't the case. Look at what happened in Lebanon, Black September. Okay, dude. Suck my dick. Seriously. All right. Enough. 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 I wish it wasn't the case, but it is real. It's not a argument, okay? You're just trying to come to terms with your racist ass opinion. Like, what am I supposed to do? I'm arguing against your delusions. Wake up, dumbass. Also, Black September wasn't in Jordan. Wasn't in Lebanon. It was in Jordan. You did not get into the logs, but this guy's also against Irish unification. Oh my God. Is that a Protestant living in the north of Ireland? Is that what it is? Almost always that actually come from, they just straight up have the worst positions. Like people who are like pro-Confederate to this day, just the worst politics.
October 6th, October 8th, October 9th. In fact, they probably are, and they pretty much have done every day, just as they did on October 7th, 2023. Okay, and to do this today is mere incitement. But Sky have also been inciting, okay, and you only have permission to publish this if you include that.
There was hostility towards the media on both sides.
Please don't get in the faces of protesters.
But they're on a public street in London.
It's common decency, don't get in their face.
So the Prime Minister says that this shows a lack of respect and is un-British. Do you agree with him?
I've said we're not going to give comment to Zionist newspapers.
You're disgusting.
I think condoning genocide is disgusting.
Oh. This video from North London was circulating on social media. A woman cutting down ribbons put up for the Israelis still being held hostage in Gaza.
These protests are now raising serious questions. Where is the line between?
It's just like they're still operating on the dynamic that it's like October 10th, 2023. Okay? That's it. They are still desperately trying to go back to a time before people saw how heinous Israel's war crimes were. That's it. And it's like, no amount of like fake victimhood narratives that you present after openly defending a genocide for the past 2 years is going to change people's attitude. No one is going to turn around and be like, oh my God, I can't believe this person was cutting ribbons. I guess we should make it illegal to protest against the genocide of Palestinians. It's just bait. It was bait on October 10 too. There was no sincere reason, as we saw for the past 2 years. Israel does not give a fuck about the hostages, right? It's over. Journalists who don't read the news, talking heads that do no research, no, they are not. It's not that these guys are oblivious to the reality. They know what the reality is, but they think they can wish cast an alternative reality. Okay? That's what it is. That's what's going on here.
Legitimate demonstration over the war in Gaza and anti-Semitism. And what is acceptable on the streets of Britain?
If this is un-British, what can the British government do about it? Becky Johnson, Sky News, Central.
What can the British government do about it? Yeah, we must make sure the British government takes action, please. Please.
Wars on.
Please. After 2 years of war, Israel faces economic headwinds. You say it's over, but aren't you worried that after an agreed upon ceasefire, it'll just be back to business as usual? No, I mean like Israel, no matter what Israel does going forward from this point on, okay, unless they like literally dissolve the apartheid, okay, and offer some kind of like reparations, modest reparations, anything like that. In the absence of that, which is never going to happen, obviously, there is no world in which people will ever look at Israel or even Israelis in the way that they perceived Israel and Israelis in general pre-October 7, 2023. It's just not happening. Overwhelming majorities have seen the heinous war crimes that Israel engaged in every single day and still continues to do so. Okay? People recognize that. People see it. People see how wrong that is. It will never be the same. People will never look at Israel in the same way unless there is at least a concerted effort in trying to do right by the Palestinians, for example. Right? Like, think about Nazi Germany. It took a lot. It took the Marshall Plan. It took a new war being waged against the communist forces in the Cold War. Like, it took a lot for Germany to become like a normal country, seen as a normal country. People are scumbags. God forbid they care about hostages. Both sides are wrong. I know, man. Why doesn't anybody ever think about the poor Nazis in Nazi Germany? You know, both sides are wrong in the Holocaust is obviously a ridiculous statement, right? There is no both sides in a genocide. Okay? There is no both sides in a genocide. It just doesn't work that way. Nobody thinks that you're brilliant for this take. Nobody thinks you have actually a moral position here. Things have changed. Things have rapidly changed. And even on October 7, 2025, it's no longer the same as October 7, 2024. Okay? Your take on this is so hypocritical. Lead by example. Show some respect for innocent Israelis who were killed and taken. That takes nothing away from condemning the genocide. Wait, what? Way to lose normal people? Why cut down ribbons for hostages? Be a normal, empathetic person? Dude, 2 years. 2 years of genocide. They are simply using October 7 as a pretext, October 7 as a response, as a reason for why Israel has been able to engage in a genocide for 2 years. That is precisely what this is. While Israel has simultaneously shown that they do not give a about the hostages at all, they have killed so many of the hostages. If you cannot comprehend that this is a mere talking point to advance Israel's genocidal ambition, 2 years after October 7, you will never understand it. Okay? I want the Israelis, which, by the way, at this point, the Israelis that remain are prisoners of war, okay? Because all of the civilians have been released, the ones that Israel didn't kill anyway, because Israel did kill a whole bunch of the hostages. But the remaining Israelis are actually members of the IDF. They were kidnapped from a tank, for example. If you could ever kidnap someone from a tank. Okay? And even then, I want them to also return to their families. Just as I want the 10,000 Palestinians that are kept under administrative detention to be able to return to their families. Just as I want the apartheid to end. But do you see the ginormous asymmetry there? This is not hypocrisy. This is an accurate reflection of events. Why Frogon is no longer a mod in this channel? That's not the case. Unless she personally unmodded herself. She is still a mod in this channel. Frogon.
Multiple fronts, increasing international isolation, and yet the Israeli economy appears resilient.
The investors of the world, get on board now, because we're about to take off.
In the immediate wake of October 7th, Israel's main stock index crashed by some 23%. 2 years later, it's at a record high, up.
Things never change. Have you seen Attack on Titan? Eren Yeager is Israel. Frogon got cooked by H3H3. How are you anti-Israel, but also still... What the is happening here? You're anti-Israel, but you're also simultaneously like taking the position of the person who was behaving as a pro-Israel voice, actively trying to deplatform people who are anti-Israel voices. I will never understand the mindset. I will never understand what's going on in people's minds. But I guess October 7 has brought back a lot of people in here who think that there is like renewed confidence in the pro-Israel position. There is none. Okay?
More than 200%. After an anemic 2024, the OECD is now forecasting Israeli GDP growth of 3.3% this year and 4.9% for 2026, some of the highest rates in the developed world. A ceasefire with neighboring Lebanon, and the end to a relatively brief air war with Iran, a relief to investors. But those wars and the war in Gaza are expensive. As of August, the multi-front conflict had cost some $89 billion. The takeover of Gaza City is estimated to potentially end up costing nearly $30 billion. To help pay for it, Israel's VAT was raised by 1% at the start of 2025. The country's debt level.
The only reason why they can get away with just raising the VAT by 1% and continue all systems go is because we are fronting the bill, dude. We are fronting the bill for the most part. Is the U.S. money and the U.S. bombs and the U.S. subsidies that go to Israel to carry out this unlimited genocide of the Palestinians. Ridiculous. Yeah, Israel is the largest cumulative recipient of U.S. aid. Total aid from 1946 to 2023 by fiscal year, constant 2022 dollars, reaches $300 billion, okay? Almost $100 billion in economic help, in economic aid, and then another $200 billion in military aid. This is till 2023, by the way. That has also exploded post-2023 after October 7. What the? Did my internet go out again? I'm going to lose my mind. What is happening? No, it's okay. Okay, my chat went out for a second. Okay, great. And obviously the neighboring Egypt, being the second largest recipient of cumulative aid, of course, is also aiding and abetting Israel's ambitions in the region too. That's another part of the puzzle too. So they are kept servile and don't actually offer any sort of support to the Palestinians. I'm going to retweet Governor Gavin Newsom's press office. Yeah. Post 2023 numbers. Since October 7, 2023, the U.S. has poured between $31 to $34 billion into Israel's war on Gaza and related military operations across the region. According to Brown University Cost of War Project, roughly $21.7 billion went directly to Israel in military aid, while an additional $12 billion funded U.S. operations in Yemen, Iran, and elsewhere. These figures exclude tens of billions more in pending arms deals, underscoring Washington's central role in sustaining the war and the wider regional escalation. More than 5.27 million people have been displaced in Gaza and the wider region, including Iran, Israel, Lebanon, and the West Bank. More than 236,000 Palestinians have been killed or injured in Gaza alone. Some 17,000 more were killed or injured in Lebanon. Thousands more have been killed in Yemen, Lebanon, and Syria. The Cost of War Project also notes U.S.-backed Israeli military operations since October 7, 2023 will lead to a far higher indirect death than direct death rates. From 2020 to 2024, private firms received $2.4 trillion in contracts from the Pentagon, approximately 54% of the department's discretionary spending of $4.4 trillion. The expanding tools of political influence used by the arms industry include extensive lobbying, millions in campaign donations, the revolving door, funding think tanks, and involvement in government advisory committees. Military spending produces an average of 5 jobs per $1 million. The same investment in other sectors create more employment, nearly 13 jobs in education, 9 in healthcare, and 7 to 8 in infrastructure and clean energy.
Meanwhile, has gone from 60% of GDP to 70% over the past 2 years. The calling up of hundreds of thousands of Army reservists has not only hit productivity, but also sparked a brain drain in the critical tech sector, which accounts for 20% of GDP and 56% of exports. In the first year of the war, more than 8,000 tech workers relocated abroad. Most costly, though, may be Israel's loss of standing on the international stage. Tens of thousands of Palestinian civilians have been slaughtered in what is increasingly recognized as an ongoing genocide in Gaza. Norway's sovereign wealth fund, the world's largest, has divested from a number of Israeli firms, citing ethical standards. Meanwhile, the European Union, Israel's main trading partner, is threatening to increase tariffs on Israeli goods.
We regret having to take...
Why you want America to collapse when it gave you everything you can dream of? What are you talking about, man? Oh, what the f is going on today, dude? I don't want America to collapse, you idiot. I want America to do right by Americans. America is collapsing regardless of what I say or do. I want to stop that. If you can't see that America is currently in the process of collapse, I don't know what to tell you. Stream goes down one time and the craziest chatters start pouring in. I know. I don't know what's going on today. It's been worse than it was before, for sure. Maybe it's because I didn't get to read chat that much when I was live from France on Sunday or something. But I think maybe it's because, like I said, it's October 7. So we got like a bunch of additional rage baiters in the chat today. All the freaks are out.
This step. However, we believe it is both appropriate and proportionate given the ongoing humanitarian crisis in Gaza.
Israel has not yet lost its most important ally and patron, the United States, which provides some $4 billion in funding per year. But even that could change. Recent polling shows a dramatic shift in U.S. public opinion, with a majority of voters now opposed to sending Israel any more military or economic aid.
Many American Jews sharply.
Most American Jews say Israel is committing war crimes in Gaza. This is the other side of the story, for the record. Okay? This is the other side of the story. It's that, like, Israel is such a blight that it is losing the most propagandized population. Israel is losing its most directly propagandized population in the United States of America. Okay? Because remember, a lot of people live in the heartland and don't understand, like, they've never encountered a Jewish person or have very limited experiences with Jewish people. But if you live in like New York, Los Angeles, Florida, okay, if you live in Jewish neighborhoods, you know, if you have Jewish friends, you know this. You know that, like, from early on, Israel support is seen as almost a national religion for many secular Jews in this country. And it's like embedded into the collective consciousness by force to the best of Israel's ability. And even then, despite of the, in spite of the false conflation between Judaism and Zionism that is at every step of the way actively pushed by moneyed interest, American Jews are also recognizing that Israel is committing war crimes against Palestinians in Gaza at 61% and a genocide against Palestinians in Gaza at 39%. With the exception of, like, evangelical Zionists, evangelical Christian Zionists, Israel is basically losing every single group.
Disapprove of Israel's conduct in the war in Gaza. The latest Washington Post poll of American Jews finds that 61% say Israel has committed war crimes against Palestinians, and nearly 40% say the country is guilty of genocide against the Palestinians. American Jews are particularly unhappy with the current Israeli government. 68% give Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's leadership negative marks, with 48% calling it poor, a 20-point increase from 5 years ago.
You know, David Drucker, so often you will have people on the right, you'll have Republicans saying, oh, those Democrats, they're anti-Semitic, or you'll have people on both.
Dog, you say that. You are the one who says that. You have been saying that. What caused you to change your tune is crazy. I feel like I'm watching a totally different news broadcast and not Morning Joe. Yeah, this is Jonathan Greenblatt's favorite audience. How'd this happen? Why is the stream offline? It's not.
Sides have always said that if you're against Israel's policies, means you must be anti-Semitic. Well, in this case, I mean, the numbers are just staggering. 61%.
Yeah. One day, we will all have been against this. By the way, that's what's going on. One day, we will all have been against this. Yeah. Moen Rabbani says American Jews are Hamas, anti-Semitic blood libel paid by Qatar, etc. One day people will pretend to have been against this. Yeah, I mean that's what that headline implies. That's what it is. I said on the day of our campaign's launch that the genocide in Gaza is a moral test of our time that's rooted in a belief of universal human rights and the belief that every life has dignity. It's why I condemn the war crimes of October 7 and why I'm committed to ending the U.S.-funded genocide in Palestine. Is this Israel's equivalent of the Iraq War? It's worse. One, because it's not the United States of America doing it, it's Israel doing it. So there is like while we know the truth, most people don't recognize that it's like most people think it's a separate entity doing this stuff. And two, it's a straightforward genocide with genocidal intent, openly stated. All war is still done. All imperialism is still done for an extraction of natural resources, colonial plunder. Having said that, Israel very clearly has an ambition to ethnically cleanse the entire land of its native population. So it is a little different in that regard. One, because Israel's not America, at least the way that people see it, right? People see Israel as a separate state, right? So it doesn't have the same allowance that the hegemonic superpower has in terms of engaging in unimaginable death and destruction. But Israel itself has also openly stated that its desires are to purge the land of its native inhabitants.
Of American Jews think that Netanyahu's government has committed war crimes in Gaza. Almost 40%.
Also, yeah, Norm had a really funny take on this. He said, the question the whole world is asking, when Van Jones his mistress, does he wear the yellow ribbon? I've never seen Norm pop off like this before. Yeah, this is these get even funnier when you remember he's dictating them over the phone to the assistant that runs this account. Why is Van Jones wearing a pimp blazer when he's so obviously a high-priced call girl? Oh my God. He does. He calls up his assistant. He calls up his assistant and dictates word by word. Speaking of Van Jones, you got to be genocidally horny to follow the AI IDF Babes account. Van Jones came out with an apology after he said that, after he said those heinous words on the Bill Maher show, making a joke about Israel's genocide of Palestinian babies. Like he openly expressed in perhaps the most callous ways that Israel was killing babies, but that it was actually not the act of the killing of babies that was making people angry. It was the fact that people were seeing it on their timelines. Why were they seeing it on their timelines? Because of Qatar and Iran. That was the argument that he presented on the Bill Maher show, where he callously stated, dead baby, dead baby, dead baby, Diddy, to thunderous applause and laughter and claps in that room to speak on how Israel had lost its popular standing in the United States of America. But then Van Jones turned around and said, yeah, I messed up on this one. Here, if you want to see the video, let's watch it again. Van Jones warns of Iran and Qatar's social media campaign.
Isn't part of that because we had to fold everything into critical race theory, and somehow the Middle East became part of,
I think like everyone is expressing their own personal pet project here. Bill Maher is saying, oh, it's because of DEI and critical race theory. Okay. And Van Jones has to retaliate because he's, he's supposed to defend that. That's like obviously that's a liberal position, and he still has to maintain his like liberal bona fides, right? So he turns around and goes like, oh no, it's not a DEI thing.
I see it differently. And I love this conversation because I think people, those of us who went to college, give a lot more credit to college courses for how the world works than I do. This is not about critical race theory on college campuses. This is about Iran. Iran and Qatar have come up with a disinformation campaign that they are running through TikTok and Instagram that is massive. If you are a young person, you open up your phone and all you see is dead Gaza baby, dead Gaza baby, dead Gaza baby, Diddy, dead Gaza baby, dead Gaza baby. That's basically.
Remember, who killed the babies? Who killed the children in Gaza? Who? Was it Iran and Qatar that killed the children in Gaza and then made it seem as though Israel was killing them? Why are people seeing the mutilated flesh of children with regular frequency and going, oh my God, this is demonic. The fact that like a government is doing this and the fact that our government is actually defending it and supporting it materially is unacceptable. This is not about Iran or Qatar. The audience is so stupid. They're just laughing at the Diddy part because sex, crime, gay, funny. No, I know. Well, they're also a paid audience. You have to remember. Okay. So like there is no world. Can you imagine? The Holocaust is seen as an atrocity because of paid Jewish media. Okay, it's seen as an atrocity because of paid Jewish actors that make you look at dead children, dead Jewish children. Like if you were to say something like that, you would not have a CNN job. Okay, you would not. You would never be able to retain a serious CNN job ever again. You would be correctly seen as a Nazi. You wouldn't just have a CNN job in previous years. You probably would have no job at all. Nowadays, you can probably get an independent media job after saying something like that, as many independent media figures do say things like that. Okay? But of course, when you say this about Palestinian children, it doesn't fucking matter. So should we never explain things? If people are going to clip and lie, they were already lying and planning anyway. What are you talking about? Oh, are you responding to the chatters who are saying, oh no, that's going to get clipped out of context? Yeah, I know. I don't give a shit what people say. They already clip me out of context all the time. It's completely ridiculous. It is completely unacceptable. Adam Johnson also points out the ridiculous nature of this. The most underrated, sinister part of Van Jones making light of dead Gaza babies is he was doing so in a comment defending DEI. The cognitive dissonance energy required for progressive accept Palestine rhetoric in the coming years is going to rip a hole in space-time. Progressive accept Palestine used to be a relatively easy position to abide by because of the concerted effort from advocacy groups. Nowadays, it's virtually impossible to maintain that perspective because most people understand exactly what the fuck is going on. So if you're like in any way, shape, or form like actually progressive, you can't get away with this kind of sentiment. You can't be making light of victims of a genocide.
So that's not DEI. That is a geopolitical adversary that is deliberately trying to divide the West against itself.
That view is not.
Yeah. Now, that in and of itself is not the end of that story. Okay. With respect to Van Jones, he also then turned around and said, "Yeah, I messed up on this one." Okay. And I'm sorry. I was trying to raise awareness about foreign adversaries creating chaos online, which is undermining democracy everywhere. But what I said was easily misunderstood, and the way I said it was flat out insensitive. Babies are dying every day in Gaza. Nobody should dispute that fact or make light of it in any way. To the people living in fear and burying family members every day of all ages, I apologize. Now, even in his apology, he's doubling down, claiming that it's not the actual dead children that is pissing people off and making people hate Israel because Israel is killing the children. It is the fact that Qatar and Iran is showing the dead children. That is the reason why people are pissed off at Israel. It's such a stupid position to arrive at. Like, because if you are to believe this position, you have to say, oh no, people would actually be totally fine with dead children. It's just like that Qatar is showing it. Qatar is actually in the wrong. Iran is actually in the wrong for showing people. If we were to take this premise at face value and assume it's correct, even though it obviously isn't, especially because it begs the question, if Iran is capable, if Qatar is capable of this kind of propaganda, why the are people not more pro-Iran in America, for example? They have this immensely sophisticated propaganda tool, and seemingly they're not using it to make people pro-Qatar and pro-Iran. How stupid of them to use this incredible network of propaganda that they have at their disposal and not use it for their own benefit. I guess the reason why, and by the way, that was the ContraPoints position too, which is so stupid. Hasbara points. But it makes it even sillier when you realize that, like, he said those things because Israel wants him to say those things, okay? Pro-Israel advocacy groups want people to think that the real issue here is not Israel's genocide, but the real anger towards Israel is actually a concerned effort from Qatar and Iran. A propaganda, okay? You know, Hasbara Point shit talks you on Blue Sky. She's so funny. Yeah. Why can't she do this on Twitter, I wonder? It's just interesting. Who cares? Anyway, and Adam Johnson also correctly points out, notice how this non-apology continues to promote the conspiracy theory Americans are outraged by Gaza because of foreign adversaries, just as mega billionaire and biggest private funder of the IDF, Larry Ellison, buys and controls the TikTok data and algorithm. As of July 2025, Israel had killed at least 18,500 children at least. Roughly 1,000 were under the age of 1. Roughly 1,000 more were between 1 and 2. The idea that you need a foreign adversary to generate outrage over this is both horribly glib and stupid. Van Jones, I wonder why so many Americans see dead Gaza babies on their social media timeline. Must be foreign adversaries. He is a stooge for corporate interests and whoever pays him. Okay? It is not an accident that Van Jones got $100 million from Jeff Bezos. Okay? This isn't to say Jeff Bezos is super pro-Israel or whatever, but it is to simply show you that he is a corporate man. For those of you who don't know, he did literally get $100 million from Jeff Bezos straight up. No holds barred, no questions asked. Because he's a shill. And what's even more interesting is that back in the day, he used to be a Maoist third worldist. In 2003, and I didn't know this either, Van Jones recorded a rap album where he called for an end to the Israeli occupation and the right to return for Palestinian refugees. Nowadays, he makes fun of dead babies in Gaza for late-night TV laugh tracks.
The rights of the Palestinian people being respected. And at this point, the end of the occupation, the right of return for Palestinian people, these are the critical dividing line, global dividing line questions of human rights. We have to be here. No American would put up with an Israeli-style occupation of their hometown for 53 days, let alone 54 years. We see violence against poor people and poor people of color within the U.S. border, at the U.S. border, and beyond the U.S. border, and you see U.S. tax dollars funding all of it. And so we have, this now global struggle against a U.S.-led security apparatus and military agenda that impacts people here and impacts people around the world, and I think that we need to see our problems as linked.
All right, Van Jones, thank you.
Is this real or AI? No, it is real. People don't know that he used to be a Maoist third worldist. When he was in the Obama administration, Republicans literally constantly talked about how he was a Maoist third worldist and how Obama had surrounded himself with radicals. Van Jones literally used to be once again, I'm going to say this, a Maoist third worldist, okay? And as Maoist third worldists often operate, I mean, he didn't exactly have a penchant for making rap beats or making music at all. This is not even him rapping at all. He's just simply talking about the situation of colonial occupation in Israel. Yeah, here.
Now, if students can do that in 1960, students can do that in 1970. Now, if students can do that in 1960, if students can do that in 1970, if students can do that in 1985 and 86, in 1993, when we have the United States government building a death camp, a concentration camp for black people who have done nothing wrong but get sick and want justice. That's all they've done wrong. If we can't close that death camp, if this generation cannot prevent another Japanese American internment in our lifetime. We should all get haircuts and go get regular jobs and give it up.
Seems like he got that haircut. Seems like he got that haircut. What in the Fetterman? No, this is not. This is beyond Fetterman. He's just a grifter. A lot of people don't remember this. I've talked about this before. Kirsten Sinema also was she wasn't like a Maoist, but she did use like Maoist third worldist English, Maoist third worldist language when talking about America. Like she was a anarchist. Kirsten Sinema too. I'm not saying that. Yeah, she was a green anarchist. Jim Cramer. Oh yeah, Jim Cramer was a trot. That's another one. Van had his eyes opened by internal thought and won a mere $100 million from Big Bezos to carry the corpo line that includes supporting Israel. How can you critique a man for selling his personal ideas for easy 9 figures? No, I mean he already had that transformation from prior to the $100 million. He got the $100 million because he had already fully formed into this servile being for all corporate interests. Hasan Reaction is one of the best ones in the React channel.